So, hi, my name's Billy, my pronouns are they, them, and I kind of thought it would be fun to do just a little sit and chat and knit. I am currently on the second sock of my a little Hocus Pocus socks, which is this really easy and simple cabled sock. I can't quite remember who the designer is, but everything will be linked in the description. And I have knitted this in, I think the colourway is called Autumn Leaves, and the brand is called West Yorkshire Spinners. So it's a British-owned brand. I have made some edits for like the heel and the sock turn, simply based on how I personally like to make my socks. I think these are only like the 5th pair of socks that I've made, but I do have a preferred method, and the pattern wasn't exactly very clear with the heel turn for me, so I decided to just make it as I normally would. So this is where I've got so far. I've done the cuff, the leg, and the heel, and I'm just on the foot. And I'm doing this on 2.75 double pointed needles. It looks really complicated having having like 4 needles, I will admit. However, I'm only working 2 at a time, so there's that. I really enjoy watching knitting podcasts. They're my favourite thing to do, favourite thing to watch during my spare time. And I thought I would just like to contribute for a little bit. I operate within the punk, metal and goth subcultures, and I would like to make my own clothes inspired by those subcultures. However, I don't see a great deal many. I found Jack and Attic. I know that Altnits does some stuff, and another female podcaster who only knits in black, although it's not specific to any subculture. And so I wanted to, I suppose, but I think knitting, crocheting, sewing your own clothes, whatever you do to make your own clothes, I think is the most punk thing that one can do when it comes to clothing. Avoiding fast fashion and making things that you absolutely love and you know for a fact that you will wear for years and years to come, and even when it starts to wear down, get holes and stuff, you know how to mend it because you've made it, and you can either make it into a brand new garment or you can repair it and keep that garment going for years and years more, which is my aim, really. So yeah, I have a fair few projects that are coming in with me into the new year. One is these socks, another is a very large granny square, which I've been working on and off for about 3 years, and it's starting to annoy me, in part because of the colours. It's very bright, it's very pink, and at first when it was just a small granny square, it wasn't as, it didn't seem as vibrant to me, but now that it's a very large granny square, like it completely enwraps me. It's just very large and very noticeable, and my emo eyes burn whenever they see too much colour that's not autumnal. The colours have to be autumnal or grey, black, heathers, greys, that type of thing. And so that is to be finished. I will give that to one of my nieces, who is an absolute fanatic when it comes to pink. Everything has to be pink. Everything is about Disney and princesses. So she'll absolutely love it. Which was the aim, to give it to someone who will absolutely love it. I think I originally intended to give it to one of my nieces, but the other has kind of outgrown her pink fanatic phase. She's kind of more into muted tones now. But yeah, I feel like my youngest niece, she's not gonna give up the pink obsession anytime soon. No. So yeah, I also have the Navelli tee by Caitlin Hunter. This is a top that I actually did finish. Oh dear, I made a mistake. This is a top that I actually did finish, however, I've made it too small. And I didn't want to give it away because the design, I didn't want to give it away to any small humans in my life, because I feel like the design, I'm really proud of the colour work that I've done, and I feel like it's just a bit too mature for them to wear, and I also don't think they would really appreciate it. So I've started again. However, I've made a lot of modifications. So on the Navelli tee, there's a piece of colour work at the bottom of the hem, which I absolutely love. I'm going to keep that pattern, keep that part of the pattern, and just do a basic raglan tee. I've made a complete mess, but it's fine. So this is what I've started so far. This is the collar. It is in black. Let me show you the original actually. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? So this is the original. And I've still got plenty of yarn in all three of these colours. There are some mistakes as well that I've noticed. You can't really see it from afar, but when you get up close, you can see the small mistakes that I've made by accident, and I didn't realise until, you know, I completely finished. And also there's a tea stain on here which annoys me so much. And I don't like, I like this part, I like this part, the top of the t-shirt. However, I'm not a fan of the neckline. It's a bit too much for me. It's a bit too feminine for me. And I prefer something that's a bit closer to my neck. I experience a lot of dysphoria as a trans person, particularly around my chest, and so shaping the neckline so that as I'm working the body, I can work around it to basically hide my chest in the best possible way and reduce the dysphoria, especially during the summer, because this is a late spring. This is the spring, late spring, very early summer type of t-shirt. I've made it in drops cotton. You know, just so that I can wear black in the summer and not feel like I'm sweating my bits off. So yeah, there were things I just didn't like, which I liked in the pattern. I liked the models, I liked the examples given, it looked really good. However, on me personally, I don't like it. I mean, I do enjoy this, the design at the top. It's just I would rather have a different neckline, and I'm not too sure how I would do that. That's really. So the plan is to make a basic raglan with a folded collar, this is what I've started so far. I've got about, I'm playing it by ear really, because I've made a few raglans. I kind of know how to do it, and if I get stuck, I've got plenty of patterns that I've saved that I can work around. So I think I've got about 8 more rows before I fold for the collar, and then I will start on the body. I think as well, I probably should have chosen an easier pattern to start with for a bottom-up design. This is the first bottom-up design that I've ever knitted, and I have heard as well that it is quite hard to measure out how long the body needs to be for bottom-up compared to top-down. So I think I will try again in the new year to make a bottom-up construction. However, like a very simple jumper or t-shirt, maybe a tank top. Yeah, maybe a summer tank top. Just to gauge things. I feel like it's just trial and error, experimenting with different patterns and realizing, okay, how long do I need this to be, and so yeah. As for this, the plan was to unravel this and start all over again. However, I checked in my stash and I realized that I do still have quite a bit of yarn left to make this without unraveling. And if I do need to unravel, I probably will only need to unravel like until the armpits, really, because I do like my things to be quite baggy and oversized because dysphoria. But I think I do like Caitlin Hunter's patterns, and I feel like I will unravel this and pick another pattern, just so I'm not faffing about with everything so much, because I'm really eager to redo this. I really want it ready for like March time. I mean, in an ideal world, I'll have it done by mid-February when I go to Paris, just, so I can feel nice in something that I've worn that's not a sock. But yeah, I feel like with certain things it is about trial and error, experimenting, just like with my socks. I don't know exactly, but I have a good idea of the number of stitches I need to cast on my socks, the length I need for my foot, how I personally like to cast off the toe, where I should do my heels, where I should do my heel turns, etc. But that was from several months of experimenting with different patterns, and yeah, oh dear, let me figure out where I am now. Okay, I've just got to the first of the cake book. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, I haven't made a great deal this year, honestly. I feel like I've only made 7 things, and I don't have a great deal to say about most of them, really. I have more to say about these socks than anything else. These are my socks for Samhain that I started on Samhain, and I was supposed to finish them in November. That has obviously not gone to plan, but I do a little bit of witchy stuff here and there, and I really wanted to incorporate more knot magic and fibre arts into my craft, and one of those was to knit something for every Sabbath. So I decided to make these for Samhain, and these will hold a very special place for Samhain, even though the magic is not quite imbued as I wanted it to be, because we are now in the middle of winter. I was also going to make some Yule socks. There is a pattern called Yule socks. It's in French, the pattern is only in French, it's not in English. I also speak French, and so, but I just kept putting it off because I just really wanted to finish more things before I started more things. So I have these to finish. I have a very large blanket to finish. Oh, hold on, let me show you. Okay, it's very pink in comparison to what I am wearing, which is this it's black jumper with Elmo on, a green 9-inch nails t-shirt, and then we have this incredibly large granny square, which isn't even, I don't even know how I'm going to do it justice really to show you. But then I've got a very large granny square, and then the plan was, because at the time I had a lot of yarn left over, and now I don't have that much yarn left over. I need to buy some more yarn. At the time I did have quite a bit of yarn, and the plan was to add some granny squares onto the end, which I started doing, and then I just got sidetracked with projects which I was more excited about. So yeah, but I'm making progress. I've finished all the mini granny squares for the second side, and I'm in the process of crocheting them all together, and then I will sew them on. I'll probably crochet them on actually, but it's very big. I wanted it, because I have this thing that I want the items that I make to last a long time. I wanted to make this big enough for an adult, a medium-sized, an average-sized adult, which I personally am not. I'm a very small adult. And I feel like the niece I'm going to give this to will also be a small adult. But she might surprise me. She might be an average-sized adult, I don't know. Because she's only 4. But yeah, I wanted it to be so that it unravels like this, and then as I've just collect these two together, this is very chaotic all the way around on both sides like that. Yeah, and it's because it's so big, it's very heavy, so it would be lovely for the winter. And obviously there it's a granny stitch, so it can still do some good in like the early spring mornings when it's a bit nippy, and it's nice and heavy for her, so there'll be lots of warmth. But yeah, this is created an aversion to knitting blankets and throws for me. Even though I really shouldn't be, I have developed an aversion. I see so many patterns of blankets and throws that look absolutely wonderful. However, because that has been a 3-year project, almost 3.5-year project, I don't want to make any more, so I think I might just have a break before I embark on another very long and potentially terrifying journey to make another one. But there are several that I'm absolutely looking forward to. So yeah. So this has been a bit chaotic, but at the moment as it stands, I have 3 projects on the go. I have these socks, I have the Navelli tee, very loosely, like I'm just keeping the pattern at the base of the T and making it into a raglan, which suits me more, and it's more masculine, less feminine. And then I have the never-ending granny square blanket. It's not affiliated with any pattern. I've literally just made a granny square, a very large one, and then decided to make several mini ones and put them all together. So my plans for 2025, at the moment I don't have a great deal besides making another Caitlin Hunter t-shirt. There is a sweater by Drops. I think it's called the Deepwood sweater. I believe I made my very first one. It was also my very first sweater. I believe I made one in 2022, but I didn't like the yarn that I used. It was a light blue colour, but it was a bit too bright. It was a bit too bright for me. And so I wanted to make another one in the recommended colourway, which is a very deep green, which I absolutely loved. So I think that is on the list to make another Deepwood sweater. I gave that light blue one away because I just wasn't going to wear it, and there was no point in keeping something in my wardrobe that I'm never going to wear. I would also like to make some more fingerless gloves. At the moment I only have one pair, which is the light blue yarn, which that doesn't bother me so much because it kind of goes with I have a blue denim jacket, which it goes with. It's a fairly good contrast piece and it's very small. It's not like a jumper where the colour is in my face a bit more. So yeah, I've got some black yarn to make some of those in. I've also got to make some gloves for a cousin of mine. I made her a balaclava hoodie in bright pink, very similar to the pink on this rabbit. I found some sparkly mohair. Oh, it was a mohair blend, but it was sparkly. And then I paired it with this, like a very similar colour to that. I have some yarn left over from that project, and I also have some white and some white mohair. So the plan is to make a pair of gloves to go with that, to go with a pink balaclava, where just to use up, because I don't like having small bits of leftover yarn from projects. It really doesn't annoy me. Like, no. So what I will either do is I will buy more yarn to make another project, or I will try to do a bit of a stash bust and try to find a pattern that matches. Try to find a pattern where I can use the small amount of yarn as a contrast piece, or as a contrast colour in the overall piece, because it annoys me, and I know I've got the same issue. I will have the same issue with the pink blanket, because the deep purple I have run out. I've got enough for the two other colours to finish off the blanket, but the deep purple I've almost run out and I need to buy another one, which means I will have yarn left over of a colour that I don't use in my wardrobe at all. So they will probably end up as a beanie. It will probably end up as a beanie or some gloves, and I'll give it away to someone. I'm trying to think what else. I also have some Pikachu socks, which will come with me. 1 second, let me get them. Okay, so these are my Pikachu socks. I started these in the summer of 2025. And the pattern scared me. The pattern is free. It's by Llama and Lattes, I believe. They make lots of cool, well, in my opinion, it's cool. They make lots of like geeky knits from cartoons, Marvel, anime. And so these are the Pikachu socks. There's the Pikachu, the Charmander, and I think Squirtle. I think. As you can see, I've got a Pikachu over here. So it's not that surprising. And I've had that Pikachu for like 7 years now. As a present from my mum when I left to go to university. So at the moment there's not a great deal on it. It's yellow with some white flecks, and here is the very start of the lettering. Here is like the P here. And the pattern is written well. It's literally just the chart. Oh, there's a fox. I haven't seen this fox in a very long time. There's a fox that lives on the train tracks. I live right next to the train tracks. And it's just rare to see the fox. I haven't seen him in a while. Or her, I don't know. It probably stayed away because they were doing a lot of maintenance and reworking of the tracks to make it lighter, like adding more lights, adding more pathways for the train workers to go by. Yeah, it's just cute. I don't know. Anyway, so with this pattern, it is literally just the chart that confuses me. Not confuses like I'm mind boggled, but confuses as in I really need to take my time so that I don't make any mistakes, because there's just a lot going on, and I will sometimes lose my place. Like this isn't with this is a Netflix and chill type of project. I forgot the word. Project. I know this pattern very well. I've memorized it. This I cannot memorize. But I do want to finish these because I think they're so cool. I think the pattern is so cute. And even though I've mentioned several times now that I have an aversion to brightly coloured things, I do like fairly bright things as contrasting pieces. For example, my socks. I have purple socks on, which I've made, as you can tell from the yarn that's hanging. These are not well done. They're just a very basic cable sock pattern, which is free. I don't know who it's by. I've tried to find it again. So because I do like this, and I would like to re-knit it, because this yarn is acrylic yarn. Acrylic yarn is obviously not very good for socks. I didn't know that at the time. But yeah, doesn't bounce back into place. But there's a cable on the foot, and then a cable on each side, like so. I think these were like the second pair of socks that I made, so for that I'm proud of myself. However, not very good, and they remain as slipper socks in the house. So yeah, I like contrasting accessories like hats, gloves, socks. Not as bright as the blanket, but just to make a statement that I'm not all doom and gloom. So yeah, so this is a project which I will be finishing. I hopefully soon, because I would like to show them off, just show how geeky I am. Oh dear. I have no idea what this brand is. I feel like it's Sirdar, Sirdar. I've noted it down somewhere, but but it's very soft, very soft, and just reminding myself how soft it feels. It's like, ugh, I need to finish these so that I have more good quality socks that actually fit me rather than like very loose acrylic slipper stuff that I made in my very early days of knitting socks, like my little Hocus Pocus socks, which fit me very well. So yeah, I think maybe the plan is just to make some socks, make loads of socks. I do have a plan to make more things for other people. I think I've only made 3 things. Yeah, out of the 7 or 8 projects that I've made, 3 of them have gone to someone else. So I made a winter bucket hat and a pair of fingerless gloves with a flap on for a friend of mine, and then I made a hooded balaclava for my cousin. But I would like to make just some simpler stuff so that I keep knitting throughout the year. I think the reason why I haven't made as much as I could have made is because I lost the momentum. I wasn't excited about the patterns, and I was knitting for myself mostly. So if I don't like the pattern, it's not for me, then I just won't knit at all. Whereas if I'm knitting for other people, not only do I tend to knit faster, but I also tend to knit more continuously. Even if I'm not knitting particularly fast, I will still make sure that I knit, for at least half an hour every day, just so that I've made progress with whatever I'm making. And yeah, I feel like even though I've been knitting for a while, I only really started making garments. I only really started making garments and getting serious about my knitting around 3 years ago. And I really did take my time making things, making sure that I had understood gauge and positive ease and picked out the appropriate yarn for the appropriate garment. And I made several mistakes, and that's kind of just part of learning and something new. And so I think it was only really the past year and a half that I managed to find confidence in my knitting through experimentation and trial and error. And now I'm at a place where I'm very confident in my skills as a knitter and a crocheter. More so a knitter than a crocheter. I knit more than I crochet. And I enjoy the process, even though knitting is slower than crocheting. I personally still enjoy the movements a lot more. I first learned how to knit when I was about 10. My mum taught me, and knitting is a hobby it's not exactly a family hobby, but it's a skill that has tried to remain visible in my family. So my mum knew how to knit. She didn't do it very well or very often, but she knew how to knit, taught me, and her two older sisters, one knits, the other crochets, and all 3 of them learned from their mum, my nan, who would knit, crochet and sew, and she was a trained seamstress. So I personally prefer knitting, because that was my first introduction to making my own clothes and crafting things. And yeah, I kind of do it as part of my ancestral veneration. I briefly spoke about how knitting and knot magic is used in part of my craft, and it is part of the crafty business, but it is also part of my ancestral veneration. I tend to, I had this habit when I was starting my practice of just knitting and talking to my ancestors, or just praying at the ancestor altar. And as I'm talking, I'm knitting, and it is also a way of remembering how I came to knit. I came to knit because of my mum and her mum, and yeah. So yeah, I believe I will stop it there. I haven't actually made much progress because I've been knitting. I think I've only knitted about 3 rows. So yeah, been trying to pay attention. But yeah, hopefully I will have another update in the new year. A clearer picture of what I'm doing month by month. Who I'm knitting for as well. What I'm knitting, if I'm knitting at all. I will be going on a yarn crawl. I'm going to Paris in February, so there will be a yarn crawl. Some of the yarn chops look absolutely adorable. And yeah, I will hopefully talk to you soon.